Welcome back to Broken Electronics. I'm Lee, and as always, it's great to spend some time with you here today. Now, today we are going to be continuing our focus on the PowerMac G5 Quad, which seems to have garnered a lot of interest, and I hope this will continue to be interesting. Two videos ago, I installed a second 1TB SSD into the sole remaining SATA bay in the computer and outlined my plan of installing a Linux distribution on that solid-state drive. The distribution I chose to work with is Fienix PPC, or Fienix OS, or Fienix Linux, however you want to call it, which really interests me because it's intended basically just for PowerPC Macs. So many of the Linux distros that had been supporting PowerPC have dropped that support. So this, even though it's in beta right now, I was very interested in it and wanted to get my feet wet and trying to figure this out. So somewhere along the line, is Leopard going to become increasingly less functional? As of right now, it does very, very well. But let's be prepared for where we're going to go in the future. In the last video, I installed Fienix onto a USB drive. Since it is beta software, the intention has been to run it from USB for purposes of testing. Now, one of the issues I had, though, as you can expect, since the quad is restricted to USB 2, it runs off the USB drive, but it runs quite slowly. So I had to come up with a different answer. Now, it is beta software, and if you want to experiment with this, I encourage you to do so. I would point out, however, don't plan on it as your primary operating system. For me, that's not true. I've got an SSD in there that's got the Leopard installation, another SSD installed via FireWire internal port that has the Tiger installation, and now another SSD that houses Fienix OS. So what I'm going to do in today's video is go over the steps required to install it. Now, I needed, in the process of doing this, I needed to have the installation on the USB disk, because once I did install it, which was pretty simple, I had to go in and use gparted, or aka GNOME Partition Editor, to expand the partition for the installation so that it could take advantage of the entire 1 terabyte. You can't do that when you're booted into it, so I had to boot into USB specifically to do that. Since then, when I've run it, I've been running it off the SSD. So yeah, we'll cover the steps inherent in how to get it installed and what you actually have to do in order to boot the machine into Fienix. So, I hope you'll find this interesting. I'm certainly learning a great deal in the process. I'm not exactly brand new to Linux, but it's been a long time since I've done much with it at all. So it's very much a learning process for me. So if you're interested in this exploration with me, please stay tuned. Well, okay, here we are in Leopard, and as has been sitting here, we have the archive of the Fienix image, and then once it's opened up, we have the Fienix SOAR image. Now, keep in mind, I have already done this. Fienix is already installed on that SSD that I put in. All I'm doing here right now is going over the steps that one would have to follow. And it's really exactly the same as installing it on the USB drive. First thing you want to do is go to Disk Utility. Control click on the drive. We can see clearly this is the drive in question. You know, the fact that it isn't mounted, you know, Leopard can't read the file system, but it can see that it's there. So go to Information, and we're looking for the disk identifier, which is disk 0. Okay, that's all we need for Disk Utility. Next, Terminal. Alright, DD for disk duplication equals, if equals, and drag the image so we get the proper path there, and then of equals dev, disk, and it would be disk 0. Now, of course, I'm not actually going to do this, seeing as how I've already done it, but that's the steps. Now, one thing I will note, you may recall my telling you that it took about 18 hours to get that image restored onto the USB drive. When I did it onto the built-in SSD, it took about 20 minutes. So I think that's a pretty good indication that it's going to be a lot better to run it on the internal drive than it is on USB 2. Okay, so what I'm going to need to do now will be to reboot the machine. We have to see now the process for going into actually boot into Fienix on that SSD. Because if we go into System Preferences here, one of the immediate things that we're going to see going to Startup Disk, our only two options are Leopard and Tiger. Which makes sense. However, yeah, I'm going to show you, it's really pretty cool how we end up being able to boot into Fienix. All right. So, realistically though, I'm going to have to reconfigure, because we'll have to do this with the camera, since I can't really use screen recording software while the computer is booting up. So please stay tuned. Okay, so we're going to boot into Fienix. Now the first thing I'm going to do is click Restart. This will take a few minutes, but it is pretty cool. Now, I'm sure many of you out there who may have been through this will realize that I am currently holding down the Option key on the keyboard. And it will do something. Remember, this is all 15-year-old technology here. So it takes a while to boot up, but by golly, it looks really good. And here we are with the boot manager loading up. Now we've got Leopard, we've got Tiger, And we have something else. Now, I don't know how well you are going to be able to see this, but I can see very clearly from here. You know, we've got our 10 for tiger and leopard. That's a little tiny tux symbol. Now, for those people who are not familiar with Linux, tux is the little penguin universal logo for Linux. So, yeah, it shows up right in the boot manager here. Now we have to wait for the OS 9 style stopwatch to clear up, and it has. So we can now select, and we're going to reboot. And from this point on, it's exactly like booting it up from the USB drive. It doesn't take quite as while. There's our little thing there. It does take a while. It takes longer to boot into this than it does to boot into either version of OS 10. But it's faster, certainly, than it was on the USB drive. So I'm very, very happy about that. And now there were a number of other things that I had done. For example, I had gone through and expanded using gparted. I think I said that in the intro, didn't I? Using gparted to expand, so we have the use of the entire 1 terabyte on the SSD. And there go the fans, ramping up like crazy, exactly as they did when we were booting from USB. It says they're loading RAM disk. You know, I suspect you probably won't really be able to see that. Okay, why don't I stop this clip and I'll pick it up again when it actually starts to load. And here we go. We can see all the code running there. The fans have ramped down. And yeah, that ran just a whole lot fast. Bang! Yeah, this wasn't too bad at all. Still got the pre-planned stuff in there, and it does take a minute from here, having put in the password. Forgive the motorcycle, and here we are on the Fienix desktop again. Now, one of the things I do find is it keeps changing things. I keep resetting the time and date, and it keeps setting itself back. It's actually 5:06. I don't really know where that time is coming from, but regardless, you know, there's a lot of tweaking that's going to have to happen. What we can actually look at here, VLC media players there, internet, we've got the interweb browser. I did install Spider Mail, which is functional. Get the control center open. The Synaptic Package Manager, which I used to install Spider Mail, which is good, and it works very, very well. What I'm not finding, I was trying to install LibreOffice. I saw the packages there, but it didn't actually install. So maybe it was just something. I understand that Casey has the repository completely loaded on his Power Mac G5, which I think is actually pretty cool that we're downloading stuff from a Power Mac G5 to a Power Mac G5 over the modern internet. But anyhow, I think we're probably going to wind this up here. I have still a long way to go figuring this out. And truth to tell, Fienix has a long way to go. It's beta software. It's a heck of a start. I love the look of this this desktop. Things are working very nicely, but yeah, as I say, it is beta software. It's not truly ready for prime time yet, but basically I would expect there's probably going to be another good 5 years of use for Leopard, which is pretty amazing in and of itself. And by that time, we can hope that Fienix will have come to a point where it really does fulfill a lot of the promise. And I'm sure we'll get a lot of things figured out with it. It's certainly an interesting thing, and I don't know if we're going to have a lot of updates on what's going on with Fienix. We might, or maybe it'll just be a while and do an overall summation. Okay, this is Fienix and this is what it can do. But still, I think we can wrap this up for now. Please, be good to other people. Our world will be better if we can all do that one simple thing. Please, be good to yourselves. It's all got to start from there. If you're not good to yourself, you're not really going to be able to be good to the other people. And while we're waiting to make this a better world, take very good and careful care in these difficult times. We're going to be back with more videos. There'll be some more G5 related stuff, some G4 related stuff, and some other stuff too. So until that time, this has been Broken Electronics.